Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Від імені Інституту Святого Володимира вітаю вас. Називаюся Дар'я Ковалик.
Від імені Українського музею Канади, філія Онтаріо, вітаю вас. Я називаюся Тамара Іваночко.
It's a pleasure to welcome you here via live stream as SVI and UMC Ontario present a culinary workshop, The Art of Varenyky with Ukrainian chef and master storyteller Olia Hercules. We'd like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which this event is being held, Toronto, is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, and the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and we encourage you to find out more about the land on which you live and work. It is important for us to start this event with a land acknowledgement because it gives time for reflection and demonstrates respect for Indigenous peoples and treaties and lands. We're all accountable for honoring and respecting the history of our land. It now gives me great pleasure to pass the floor on to Tamara. Go right ahead.
Дякую, Дар'я. Now I'd like to introduce you to our guest of honor, Olia Hercules. Olia is a British Ukrainian cookbook author, chef, and activist. She has written 4 cookbooks, including award-winning Mamushka, which has been translated into 11 languages. Her 3rd cookbook, Summer Kitchens, documents Ukrainian regional cuisine and preservation traditions. She is co-founder of the movement for Cook for Ukraine, which has helped to raise over £2 million to help some of those affected by war in Ukraine. Olia lives in London with her husband, Joe, and 2 young sons. She continues fundraising, writing, and raising awareness about Ukraine and Ukrainian culture. So, Olia, I will turn it over to you, and I will pin you, so you're the only one up. There we go.
Thank you so much for the introduction, and thank you for inviting me to do this event. I'm feeling just a tiny bit nervous. I know that almost 500 of you have registered, so we've got about 200, almost 200 live, and then some people will watch the recording. I really hope that you will enjoy it. I'm going to tell you quite a lot about dumplings and about Ukrainian cuisine in general. But just to kind of get ahead, because we don't have all night, unfortunately, I'm going to encourage those of you who are cooking along with me to make the dough with me straight away, only because it takes a little bit of time for it to hydrate and then to rest. So we need to kind of get that started. And then afterwards, I'm just going to talk to you a little bit more. I'm just going to switch my camera and show you some of the ingredients that I've got today. We're going to make varenyky, we're going to make pelustka ferment, and we're going to, and hopefully we will also make some brown butter, but we'll have a look at how we're doing for time. So very quickly, it's all looking beautiful here, but I'm just going to move it away for a sec, just so we can concentrate on making this dough. And then I will talk you through things a little bit more. So for the dough, just so you're kind of prepared, we've got 350 grams of flour. I've got plain today, but you can use double O. It's Italian pasta flour is also good. It makes for a more interesting texture, I think, but I've got plain today, so that's what I'm using. This is semolina for a little bit later. And you will need a tray later as well, just to put your varenyky on. And so I'll just keep on clearing until I just have the ingredients that I need for my dough, just so it kind of has time to relax a little bit, and then I will talk you through things a little bit more. This massive cabbage, don't worry, we're not going to use all of it, but this is the cabbage that I had, some horseradish. Okay, cool. So we are here with our ingredients. If you're making a vegan dough, you don't have to use eggs at all. In fact, I think most of regions of Ukraine wouldn't really use eggs. This is kind of like my mom's edition. She started adding eggs mixed with a little bit of water to make her Varenyky dough, and I prefer it. I really like the texture. I like the flavor that it gives, but again, you don't really have to do it. So for 350 grams of flour, if you're just using all water, just use 170 mils of water, okay? I've got 2 large eggs and I've got 60 mils of water. Yeah, this is just tap water and there are 2 large eggs. So I'm going to talk you through what we're going to do now. We're just going to put 2 whole eggs into a bowl. We start with wet ingredients. So unlike, you know, what you might be used to if you've ever made Italian pasta flour, you know, you've got your flour, then you add the wet ingredients and you kind of incorporate them that way. I find that this method, well, our method is much easier. My egg has just broken, but that's okay. I can just put it in here like that. And then I've got my water. So we've got 30 mils of water to an egg today. And I find that this is quite a good ratio with the 350 grams of flour. If you're practicing crimping, yeah, my mom's would maybe make it even a little bit wetter, a little bit softer, which will make it more delicate to eat. But if you're practicing, I think making your dough just a little bit more firm to begin with is a good idea. Yeah, so I've just put the eggs, 2 large eggs and 60 mils of water into my bowl. And I'm just going to whisk it briefly just to kind of break up the egg. That's it. That's all I'm doing here. I'm not adding any salt. When I boil them later, I'm going to salt the water quite generously, and that will, you know, season the dough itself. But for now, I'm not going to put it in because I feel like if you add salt into your dough, it dries it out. So here we go. So I'm going to literally just dump this flour. I know people are so scared of making pasta dough, but really, it's really, really easy. I'm going to explain kind of where I think people kind of go a little bit nervous. So at this stage, you know, you bring it together basically with a fork or a spoon first, just to make sure that all of the flour kind of meets the egg and the water, and then I'm going to go in with my hand. And this is where things, you know, look a little bit ropey and it looks really shaggy and weird, and people start kind of like straight away kneading it for ages and it's not coming together, and it really, I find, stresses people out sometimes. But you don't have to be stressed out. It's all good. It is looking really rough at the moment, but it will come together. What we need to do once we bring it together is to let it hydrate. That means just leaving it alone for literally about 10 minutes and letting that flour absorb all of the wet ingredients, okay? So I'm not going to go, crazy with my kneading at the moment. I'm just going to bring it all together. If you feel like, oh, you know, there's some dry bits that are really not incorporating themselves, that's okay. You can just compost them, you know? So I've got a tiny bit left here. That's fine. I'm just going to put it to the side. And then I'm going to just knead it briefly just to make sure that there's no dry pockets. Yeah, so all of the flour has kind of is touching the wet ingredients, okay? But I'm not going to knead it for ages just now. I'm not kind of here to develop gluten or anything like that. That it will come later after we let it rest and hydrate for a bit, okay? So I'm just kind of, you know, firmly just mushing it together on the table just to make sure that there's no dry pockets. That's it. I mean, honestly, we're nearly there. It's going to look weird. It's going to look wrinkly, but it's feeling good to me. It's not too tacky. It's feeling firm. And as I say, I think this firmness of dough is good if you are, especially if you want to do crimping, which I'm going to show you in a little bit, okay? So here we go. This is what it looks at the moment. Doesn't look great yet. Looks a little bit rough, but it feels good. It feels like it's going to be a really good dough. So I'm just grab some either cling film or maybe, you know, like a soft shopping bag or something like that, just so it doesn't dry out. So I'm just going to wrap it so it doesn't dry, and I'm just going to leave it to the side here. just so it's just so it rests and hydrates. Okay, so here we go. This is our dough. It's just going here to rest. Let me get rid of these bowls here. Okay, so phew. Okay, we've got this out of the way. That's a good thing. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about fillings now. So today I've got a filling that I actually, so this is not necessarily what we made kind of in the south of Ukraine. Yeah, if my mom made a potato filling, she would make kind of a mashed potato, and then she would fry loads of onions in oil, in quite a lot of oil. So you had these really lovely caramelized diced onions, and this highly flavored oil that was flavored with these onions, and she would mix it together, and and that would be it. Today I've got more of a kind of West Ukrainian, I guess. Well, something that I've encountered in Western Ukraine. So I've got potato, and I took a couple of potatoes and I've put them with their skins on whole into the oven, and I baked them. But I baked them until they were really squidgy inside. So the shell got quite hard, but inside they were really nice and soft. And I cut it in half. I scooped them out. And actually, I kept the skins. I'm just going to tell you about the skins quickly because it's such a delicious thing to do. So the shells are still around somewhere. I think Joe is going to deal with them tomorrow. And what he does is he puts more oil on them, puts them back into the oven, and they become super, super crispy. And then you can do something like almost like a ranch dressing or something like that, or a mayonnaise, like a really nice sweet paprika or smoked paprika mayo. And they are just like a really, really nice crispy snack, basically. But let's go back to my potato here. So when it was warm, I added some butter in, but you can do olive oil as well. If you haven't done that with your potato before, you can add a little bit of butter now, maybe just melt it a little bit. But also you can leave it as it is, because your cheese, if you're using cheese as well, it's going to make it quite rich as it is. I've actually got a really nice Imereti Georgian cheese because I had it in the freezer, so I just defrosted it. I've got 300 grams of cooked potato, and I've got 150 grams of this Emirati cheese, which actually really does taste like Ukrainian sir to me. It's a very it's a similar kind of beast, if you know what I mean. But if you've got Ukrainian sir or Polish tvarog, or a little bit of feta as well, works really well. Or what my husband really loves is when I use goat's cheese. It's a bit of a modern kind of take on this recipe, but soft goat's cheese, if you're a fan, really works really well. If you're a vegan or you're cooking for vegans, just omit the cheese. Maybe just, put more herbs in, more spring onions in. You can also do chives or garlic chives, works really well here. Or as I say, you can just take two big onions, dice them really finely, or as finely as you can. Also, don't get stressed out. It will all soften up in the pan. Put like a generous amount of oil, and by that I mean 5-6 tablespoons. I know, but it's you're here for deliciousness. That's why you're eating dumplings, right? For comfort and delicious flavors. And then just fry those onions and mix them as I did with mash them into the potatoes, and you're done. What else? I'm just going to start chopping these onions finally to add them in here. And I'm going to talk to you about other fillings that you can do with Varenyky. They actually say, I've done a little bit of research, and they say, Varenyky probably came from dushbara, which is a Turkic dish, a very kind of similar dough, things wrapped in dough, essentially. I mean, who knows? It's I think it's really quite hard to kind of trace where certain things came from, especially with dumplings. But in Ukraine, I feel like somebody asked me, what's the difference between pierogi and varenyky? I think in Western Ukraine, they still call them pierogi quite a lot. In the South, we always call them varenyky. I feel like with varenyky, it's mostly cooked fillings that you put in. So you're only cooking the dumplings for about 2-3 minutes until the dough is cooked, but the filling is already done. Mostly they're vegetarian in my experience. In some areas like Sumi, I think they use, liver and even lungs are used. So it's mostly either offal or vegetables, but who knows, I've also, like, as much as research as I've done, I'm sure that there's plenty of other fillings all over Ukraine. I think whatever people had also in their home, you just wrap it into a dough and make a slightly different dish from what you had before. It's just like a really good way of using leftovers. In the south of Ukraine, so I'm from Kherson region. I'm from Kakhovka originally. There's I'm just going to show you what I do with these quickly. So I'm going to cut these off, and then I like them quite thin, so I'm just going to cut them lengthways, these spring onions. The reason why I'm doing this filling is because I feel like, we're entering spring, but it's still a little bit cold, and so you've still got the comfort of potato and cheese, but you've also got, really fresh flavors of herbs and spring onions, and I think that's nice. If you are somewhere where wild garlic grows, I would recommend using some wild garlic finely chopped through your potato or through your potato and cheese. It works so beautifully. So in the south of Ukraine, in Kakhovka, in Kherson region, actually, we've got a bean that we locally call lahuta. And the actual botanical word for it, I think, is vigna. The ones that we grew and used in the south of Ukraine, I think, from what I kind of understand, of course, I'm not a botanist and I might be making mistakes, but I think it's an adzuki bean. So it's really small, a really small kind of bean that they use a lot in Asian cooking and in Japanese cooking, and they're kind of naturally sweet. So the varenyky that would be filled with these cooked, naturally sweet tasting beans will be somewhere, are they savory? Are they sweet? It's that kind of thing, but it's just a local thing that people used to do, but actually maybe don't do that much anymore. Of course, we do also do varenyky whenever there is something delicious that comes into season, like sour cherries, strawberries, bilberries, depending on where you are. Also apricots would be quite often used. And you would encase raw fruit, stoned sometimes. Sometimes I think mom would even leave those stones in the cherries. A little sprinkling of sugar, you encase them so it looks really cute with the little kind of like whole cherries, poking out the shapes of them. And you cook them and then serve them with, in the 80s, to be honest with you, my mom probably would have, not probably, she would have served them with loads of butter, smetana, which is this thick sour cream, and sugar sprinkled on top, so as a pudding as well. But now if I do make those, I still use loads of butter. That's, I think, is essential here. But I would also use either honey or maple syrup. Maple syrup is my favorite. And those of you who are in Canada, I'm sure that you have the best stuff. And I'm so jealous because I just absolutely love it. So here we go. So I've just done, it's roughly like 50 grams of spring onions, just finely chopped. And I'm going to add this to the filling, and it will add this really beautiful freshness to the whole affair. I would encourage to, feel free to add whichever herbs you really love. Like, I feel like spring onions and dill is just so quintessentially Ukrainian, but I do love chives, which I've actually grown to love in the UK, especially something like garlic chives. And I often do add them to this filling. Another filling that I really love, we're a little bit out of season for it now. We're kind of coming out of the season for it. The one that I make for Christmas quite a lot is, so take, again, a couple of onions, finely dice and caramelize them either in butter or in oil in a pan. So you just like slowly cook them kind of, you don't have to do it for 40 minutes, not like proper caramelization. You know, you can kind of fry them until they get brown on the outside and keep adding little splashes of water so they so you deglaze the pan. And then I would add mushrooms. And if you're using something like button mushrooms or field mushrooms, I use the, you know, the rough side of the grater, and I just grate the mushrooms on it, and it works so well for the filling. So then I add these grated mushrooms, some sauerkraut, sometimes also just some fresh cabbage, and then also some chestnuts, which apparently chestnuts have been used in the Kharkiv and Sumy region, especially in the past, and, you know, have just come out of kind of fashion or use, or most probably during the Soviet Union, you know, it just fell out of kind of people's circulation. But chestnuts, if you love them, they really work well in that cabbagey, mushroomy, sauerkrauty filling. And you just cook everything together until it looks really nice, caramelized and brown, and you cool it down, and then loads of black pepper, and you use them in Varenyky as well. So this is smelling really fantastic here already, this filling. Another alternative to potato, if you wanted to, and we all know how good it is for your microbiome, and, you know, if you wanted to feel even healthier, beans. Just normal white beans in central Ukraine and Poltava region especially, they use quite a lot. So they cook them, or you can use, you know, nice jarred beans or canned beans, and you use them instead of mashed potato in exactly the same way. And actually sometimes I'm like, I can't even tell the difference. You know, it's the same kind of texture. So I'm just going to look at my dough here. We're just going to give it a little bit of a knead and see what's happening with it. It should have hydrated quite nicely, but it still needs another 10 minutes to relax the gluten once we give it a knead, before we can roll it out and stamp it out. Just before, so I've got a glass. You can, if you have a pastry cutter, you know, a cookie cutter or something like that, that's good. I think this is 8 centimeters, 8 to 10 centimeters is a good one, but I always use a glass. I don't know, I'm just used to it. I don't even know where my pastry cutter is. So I've got my dough. So look, this is how it looks. It is feeling quite, you know, a lot more relaxed now. And I'm just going to give it a good knead now, just to kind of bring it together a bit more. And already, you know, as if by kind of magic, it's already looking much smoother. It's not quite there yet, but it is looking much smoother. So I'm going to give it a brief knead, and then I'm going to leave it to relax a little bit more while we make our pelustka. Okay, so pelustka in Ukrainian means petals, and that's a cabbage ferment. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about it now whilst the dough is relaxing. All right, so here we go. Look, it's looking better already. And it's not scary, is it? You just need to give it a little bit of time. Вітання з Вінніпегу і Каховки. I'm going to cry now. That's so nice. I don't know why I've always wanted to go to Winnipeg. I don't know, maybe because I've watched the documentary about, was it a documentary? No, it was a really lovely art independent film. I think I watched it as a student, and I always held this kind of, I don't know, it's really attractive to me. So I'd love to visit one day. And I hear that quite a lot of Ukrainians live there too. So I'm just going to leave this here to relax. I'm just going to give you one quick kind of piece of advice. So when you're cooking, and this is a ridiculously small bowl, and I'm turning around and I can't see a big one. Let's say, I mean, if you're cooking like loads, yeah, just have a bin like around, you know, so you don't waste time going to your big bin, putting things in, and then, you know, all of this mess building around you. You don't want that to happen. You want cooking to be a really relaxing kind of activity. And I feel like something as simple as having this bin near you, which you will then go and take to the bigger bin, is a game changer, especially when you're cooking loads, you know, for Christmas or for Easter or whatever. Just keep yourself really nice and tidy, and then everything will be a lot more relaxing to do. So Normally I would be looking at the chat questions and answering, and I'm so tempted to do it, but I need to restrain myself because we don't have time, and I really want to show you everything today. I'm just going to talk you through the ferment very quickly. At the end of the session, you will, I think you'll get a link to a workshop, a fermentation workshop. I've made it free on Patreon, so you can go and see, because I just don't have enough time to kind of talk through, fermentation traditions and culture and science. But there in that workshop, I think it's a 90-minute workshop, I give you a lot of information. So if you're a little bit, you've never tried it before and you want to know more, you can go to it, and it's free, and you can just absolutely look at it and learn a little bit more. But I'm just going to talk a little bit about what we're going to make. So look how beautiful it is. This is called pelustka. And there are different versions made in Ukraine. Sometimes vinegar is used, but I like to ferment it just because it's so good for your gut. And it's beautiful and it's delicious. And you can make it your own, so you can get quite creative with it. In the recipe pack, you should have received all of the kind of flavorings that you should be putting in. Traditionally, you'd have something like horseradish, garlic, dill umbrellas, or if you don't have those, just dill stalks or even dill leaves work really well. But I sometimes like to put a little bit of ginger in it, either finely grated or chopped. It works really well. And I mean, just look at it. It's just such a beautiful thing. You've got these beautiful big pieces of cabbage and beetroot, and it's a really simple one to do. I'm just going to talk you through what we're going to do in the next kind of 10 minutes with this pickle. So I've got a jar. I've got a 2-liter jar here, just like this. I've got also a horseradish, which is actually weirdly is not such an easy thing to find in London, I find, but we managed. Then I've got my massive cabbage, but I'm not going to use the whole thing. I'm just going to use as much as will kind of fit into the jar. I've got a liter of water here, which I think should be enough. Might even have a little bit left over. And I'm just going to change my camera so you can see what's going on with the ingredients. One sec. And I've got salt here. You can use any sea salt. I think non-ionized, they say, is good for fermentation purposes. I've got kind of like, I think it's a mixture of salts that we have in our salt pig, including maybe some Himalayan salt, but it doesn't have to be fancy at all. It can be just fine sea salt. So to a liter of water, I've got 25 grams of sea salt, okay? To me, to my palate, a 2.5% brine, which is what this is, tastes really good, okay? You might want to go a little bit higher, or, I wouldn't go lower than 20 grams of salt to a liter of water, just to keep everything, to keep all of that kind of harmful bacteria away, but to let lactobacteria to multiply. But yeah, 25 grams of salt to a liter of water. I'm going to mix it together. I'm not going to add any extra sugar. Sometimes people do, but I find that it can just become a little bit too lively. So I'm just doing salt and water. And when you watch if you go to watch my other workshop, the fermentation workshop, I usually say to people, I begin with, for years, I actually felt kind of weird about teaching fermentation. I always thought that it would be almost like a little bit of a con. I now realize that I was wrong. Like there's so much that I have to, I can talk about and I can teach. But to me, because I grew up with it, to me it was always mom putting salt and water together, pouring it over some vegetables, and then the magic happens. And and that's as easy as it was. There's never kind of been any kind of poisonings or any kind of like bad stuff, because trust me, if your ferment is not good to eat, you will know. It will not smell or taste good, you'll just be like, whoa, this is going into the compost bin, okay? So normally when I teach fermentation, my first thing is I'm here to give you that confidence, okay? I know what I'm doing. We've been fermenting and I've been watching all of this like my whole life. It's really not that hard. It is about making a brine, putting it with vegetables, but of course there are also loads of variables. So today I'm going to show you how to make a hot brine, but you don't have to. You can also just put your cabbage in, put your beetroot in, literally pour this cold brine over. It will just take a lot longer. What I'm going to show you today how to do is a hot brine pickle. So we're going to heat up the water and the salt. If you're using spices like coriander or caraway or whatever else you want to use, a little bit of allspice or something, crush them ever so slightly just to release those flavors more and add them into the brine now before we heat it up. So so the brine has time to infuse, okay? So I'm going to put it on to heat up on my little stove here. And then I'm going to put the vegetables into my jar. Very briefly about cleaning the jar. If it was in a, infested cellar or something like that, yes, maybe do, pour hot water over it or even put it in the oven to completely disinfect it, fine. If it's a jar in your normal kitchen, just a nice eco detergent to clean it is absolutely fine. You don't have to go, you don't have to worry about making it super sterile. One thing that I would actually recommend that you do if you want to ferment more in your kitchen is do not use any harsh chemicals. Bleach is a no-no. Just like get rid of that stuff. No, but it's harmful for you, really, for your body. And it's also, it kills everything around. And what you want, just like in our tummies, our kitchens also can actually kind of acquire a microbiome of its own, yeah? All of these yeasts and bacteria, the more you ferment, if you make sourdough bread or something like that, it's just all in the air. And it happens a lot quicker and a lot easier if you've got a kitchen full of life. So bleach, no. All right. So let's just quickly go back to my situation here. So I've got my jar, it's just nicely cleaned with an eco detergent. I'm going to put this on to heat up. I'm just kind of going a little bit, so it's just here heating up. I mean, you don't really have to see it heating up or anything. It's there, it's doing its thing. If you've got garlic, horseradish, other kind of things that are fresh, dill, just put them at the bottom of the jar here. If you've got dry stuff, heat it up with your brine so it gets infused into the brine a little bit better, okay? Why do I use a hot brine for this? The reason why I use a hot brine for this is because we are going to cut the cabbage into quite big chunks, okay? And when and I'm going to do beetroot in kind of like wedges as well. When we're going to pour the hot brine over our vegetables, it's going to kind of, and close the lid, it's going to kind of cook it a little bit. Wild, I know, but it works. It kind of breaks down the walls a little bit. Oh, I didn't put this on. It breaks down the walls of the vegetables a little bit and it makes the fermentation process go quicker. One thing that happens during the hot brining is that it does kill quite a lot of the natural yeasts and bacteria that are clinging to your hopefully organic vegetables. That is why in my recipe, I recommend that you have another ferment, and it can be even kraut from a shop. Just make sure when you buy any ferments from your shop that you buy it from the fridge. It means that they haven't that they haven't pasteurized it. They haven't killed off all of the good bacteria. Okay, so I've got this already. So I'm just going to use a little bit of juice of this at the very end. So we're gonna put the cabbage in. We're gonna layer it with a bit of horseradish and my beetroot, which unfortunately I've got a little bit of a beetroot gate today. My big beetroot has been used for for another recipe. I blame my husband, which is maybe behind that door. So I'm just got a little one, but it's enough to kind of make the ferment pink. So we're going to put all of these things in. We're going to put the hot brine over. I'm going to close the lid and I'm going to let it cool down a bit. And at the very end, when it cools down, I'm going to add a splash of the live ferment brine, and I'm going to almost like inoculate it with all of the bacteria and yeasts that are already happening there. So if you're doing this today and you're like, oh, I don't have, I don't have this sprout and it's liquid here at the moment, it's okay. You can just do what we're doing today, and then tomorrow grab some, add some, it'll be fine. But actually it should, even without any extra help, it should start fermenting. As I say, like, I want to give you so much information today on fermentation, but unfortunately I don't have time. But as I say, you will get that link. And if you are interested and you want to know more about my perspective of it, because I'm not a scientist, I am a curious person and I do read up on it a lot. But all of my knowledge kind of comes from my family. And a lot of the time is also intuitive because I've been doing it for such a long time. So I've just kind of like cut off the horseradish skins. I've got my big bin. I'm going to put it there. And then if you have the patience and not such sensitive eyes, you can grate it. When you grate horseradish, it can feel a lot more intense when you're grating it than on your palate, I feel. But today, actually, I'm not going to use this whole thing because that's going to be quite hot. I'm going to use half of it. Make sure that you get rid of, this is a top tip, make sure that you get rid of anything that looks a little bit kind of not rotting, but a little bit off. Like even with this cabbage, like if you've got these bits here, I'm going to take this leaf off. You want it to be super fresh, because all of these bits, all of these kind of like little rotting bits can harbor bacteria that are going to mess your stuff up. So this is looking really nice, and I'm just going to kind of like slice it like this, and then I'm gonna slice it into thin, kind of like julienne a bit. If you've got something like garlic, you can either grate it. That's really nice, actually, in the ferment. Just grate it on a fine grater, or you can slice it, or you can put it whole cloves. As a rule, the smaller you cut something, the quicker it will ferment. Also, garlic is very good to use in fermentation because apparently it is a champion in terms of the natural kind of bacteria and yeast that clings to it. I think there's about 40 different species that cling to garlic, so it's a really good one to use. So I'm just going to put all of my horseradish at the bottom here, and then I'm going to put my little beetroot. My water is boiling. I'm just going to switch it off. And then with my beetroot, I'm just going to cut it into kind of like wedges like this, just to show you. Sorry. Something like that. If you want to do it thinner, if you don't want to do it cubed, that's all fine as well. If you've got quite a lot of beetroot, you can layer it. I'm putting mine at the bottom because I've just got this one little sad guy, but that's fine. So my massive cabbage, I won't need all of it. I'm going to take this off, but maybe this one is, maybe this one can go into compost. But if it's not too bad, you can cook with it. This might not be amazing for fermentation, but it's still all right for your soup pot. And I'm just going to cut a piece off. So I'm going to cut through it. This is a really, really big cabbage. And I might need a little bit more actually. And then, and I can see that here, this bit is a little bit, off. So I'm just going to put that in here as well. But this bit is looking good. And it is quite tough. And you'd think like, oh, it's too tough to eat, as it is. But actually, when it ferments, it will, fermentation is almost like cooking. It does make your vegetables go a little bit softer, so it's fine. I'm just going to cut this into bigger pieces and just put it on the bottom of my jar. And then with the rest of it, I'm just also going to cut it into If your cabbage is quite small, it's nice to leave that root so it holds everything together. So, you know, like this one here, so you can do wedges that are held together by the root. But I'm gonna do kind of nice little wedges like this, and I'm gonna put them into my jar, just like that. And then, you know, you can, it just looks really nice when you put these big pieces of pickles on your table, but also you can chop them up and even kind of like do a fermented slaw by mixing your chopped fermented cabbage with some apple or pear, using a little bit of, this is good, using a little bit of unrefined sunflower oil if you can get hold of, as that's what we use in Ukraine, or even sesame oil mixed with a little bit of regular sunflower oil, because all of these ferments really love a bit of a nutty flavor. So there we are. So honestly, this is so easy in terms of what you need to do to make a ferment happen. I'm going to explain in a sec what happens after you put this hot brine over. So I'm just going to just cut a little bit more off, just like that. And then make something like this. Put it into the, so you want to go, let me show you, where are we? Here. So you want to leave kind of a good 5 centimeter on top. Yeah, don't go to a complete top of it, because when you put the liquid in, remember that it's got salt in, your cabbage will release more moisture. So it might kind of spill out. So you need a little bit of space on top. But just make sure that it's nicely wedged in and it doesn't float kind of on top of your brine. Now, I'm not going to attempt to do this on camera, so I think I might just do it with a ladle, just so I don't burn myself on camera or anything like that. And I'm just going to scoop this hot, salty liquid into my jar over the cabbage. And I'm going to leave a little bit of space to add my my ready brine later to inoculate it, yeah? But for now, I'm just gonna do this. Now I think I can go with it. Hold on, just put it all in. Just very carefully putting it in. Yeah, this worked. So there we are. So you see, it's just on top like that. And already, I'll show you. Hold on, let me just switch it back up. So we're leaving it like this to kind of like cook and steam almost. But look, it's already becoming beautiful. All of this beetroot is going to go up and make it super pink. And eventually, you know, depending on how much beetroot you've got, it's going to be magenta kind of color. And if you ever come across something like pink beetroot or something like that, it doesn't have the same effect, but it does make it really nice and gently pink as well. So we're just going to leave this until the end of the class, and then I'm just going to inoculate it with my other ferment brine, just to add those bacteria and yeasts into it. The reason why I'm not adding it now is because it's hot and it might kill them. So hot temperatures kill them. Cold temperatures slow down the fermentation. So in terms of what you do with this after, you leave it in your kitchen. If it's cold in your kitchen most of the time, it should kind of like hang around for up to 2 weeks, yeah? So this one I've made 2 weeks ago, and I think I'm gonna put it, I've tasted it today, it tastes good. So I'm gonna put it in the fridge where the fermentation process will slow down and it can keep there for, you know, months, literally months. The brine that remains when you finish the pickle, you can drink the brine. It's a really good hangover cure. It's just really good for your gut health. You can put it into borscht. It will almost be like a beetroot kvass that you can add to your borscht to make it sour. What else can you do? And you can also reuse the brine almost indefinitely, almost like a sourdough starter. So you finish your pickle, you've drunk most of your brine, but you left a little bit, and then you can use it to inoculate, kind of, you know, to use it almost as a starter for your next ferment. And you can just do it perpetually. And the more and more you do it, the more flavorsome it becomes. like a sourdough bread, if anybody has made this before, it becomes more and more flavorsome, because with each ferment as well, you know, next time you might put some mustard seeds, or you might put some bay leaves or whatever. So all of these flavors will keep on adding, and not just flavors, but also different strands of bacteria and yeast. Sorry, I get really excited about all this. I really love it. If you saw my kitchen now, it's literally like covered in jars everywhere. And I believe that you know, it's also good for your health. And when we're struggling a little bit with mental health, I feel like it really helps me personally, I think. So there we go. So we're nearly done. But you see, in terms of like the actions that you have to do is really simple. I think we can start shaping our Varenyky. Hallelujah. So let's just put that to the side. Make sure that you've got everything is clear on your bench. Or on your big board, whatever you are using, but you're good to go on the table, I think. You need a little bit of flour. Let me just talk you through the next bit. I'm just going to change the, okay, camera. Okay, so we've got our filling, which is delicious. Maybe give it a little taste. I actually didn't add any salt because the cheese, I know, is quite salty, and also I did add a little bit of salt to my potato when I added the butter to it. Hold on. It's good. It's good. It's salty enough, but do taste yours and make sure that it's really nicely seasoned. If you think about it, you know, you will have that dough. It needs to be properly seasoned, almost kind of like on the verge. I think then your Varenyky will really just sing, and you know, it's important, I think, to add enough salt. And if you wanted to, you could add a little bit of pepper as well. Why not? But to me, this tastes good. There's just a little bit of that heat coming from the spring onions, the freshness of the dill, the cheese, and nice and sour and salty, and the potato itself is very delicious. Okay, so I've got my clean towel here. So that's what you'll need a towel. You'll need a tray. Okay. And I've got some semolina, but you can use fine polenta or even flour. You know, it's just to kind of put over your tray, so you can put your Varenyky on here and then cover them with a towel so they don't dry out. Before I begin, I'm just going to talk to you about freezing Varenyky or any other dumpling, as a matter of fact. So it's never really, it's always worth making quite a lot in one go, and it can be really fun. Hopefully, after I show you, you'll be like, I can do this, and it's fun, and I can do it with my friends or my family with a glass of wine or with my kids. And you know, so you can make maybe at least 100, I think. Therapeutic action. And then what you can do, because, you know, perhaps you will eat them all at the same time, you know, don't make me stop you, but you probably will have some left once you've shaped them all. What you can do is you put them on the tray, not touching each other. Then with your freezer, I know that freezers are quite full most of the time, yeah? But take out some peas, take some stuff out and huddle it together in the sink that it won't defrost in half an hour, okay? So huddle it in the sink to free up a little bit of space. And then you put your tray with Varenyky in, leave it there for about 25-30 minutes. And depending on their size, I think, you know, they should be kind of like firm enough to pluck them off your tray, put them in the bag, put the rest of the stuff in the freezer, and boom. And you've got like a really easy lunch for your kids. Or if your friends come over and you've got them all ready, all you have to do is heat some water up and just cook them from frozen. It's as easy, as simple as that. And I think it's really worth making quite a lot of them. So let's get to it. So I've got my tray with my semolina. I've got my dough, and I've got my towel, my kitchen towel. So I'm just going to have a look at it. I'm just gonna give it a really brief knead, not too much, because I don't want it to kind of seize up again, because I'm gonna roll it out now. Hold on. I'm just gonna show you a magic. but just look how lovely and smooth it is. And I hope that yours is looking like this too. It really should. And this is the kind of firmness that I want today, but it can also be a little bit softer. If you want like a really kind of like delicate, Varenyk. But I feel this kind of texture, this kind of firmness, there's less chance of it kind of falling apart in water, yeah? Before I go and do it the traditional way, I just wanted to let you know that if you're doing this with kids and you want them to learn how to roll things out, you can also do it like this. Yeah, you can, don't do this now. I'm just showing you what you can do if you're doing it with children. So you make little sausages like that, and then you cut them into pieces, and then you flatten it into a little disc, and then it's really easy to just roll it out into, this is quite big, maybe go a little bit smaller. This is, as my mom would say, what is this cherevik, is a huge Varenyk. She's actually here upstairs, so I hope she's not watching. Okay, so, and but it's much easier for kids to kind of like handle this much dough. Yeah, they don't have to like really put so much effort into rolling out a big piece of dough. Just kind of like a little tip here. But we're gonna go traditional with it. Don't throw this away. You need to kind of keep the rest of your dough covered while you're working with the chunk of it. So let's just go like this. So just to make it a bit easier, I've taken, just under a half, but you can go full on if you like as well, if you're feeling strong. Mine is feeling good. I might just do a little bit of semolina just so it doesn't get stuck. If yours is feeling really wet, then put quite a lot of flour on your surface, yeah? I like the texture that fine semolina gives to my Varenyky, so I'm just going to do that. But flour is absolutely fine. So a dusting, let's move this to the side. Make sure that you're kind of like as uncluttered as possible. Okay, and then we're going to roll it out. So first, I am flattening the dough into a kind of a disc, and then we're gonna train our muscles a little bit, and we're just going to roll it out. For the potato Varenyky, if you have ever used the pasta machine, which also you absolutely can do if you're good with it, the thickness, the one before the thinnest, I think is good, because this is a heavier filling. If you do something like just curd cheese, sir or something like that, which my mom, I know a lot of people make it sweet, but that's my favorite filling actually. So sir, a couple of egg yolks and loads of sea salt. That for me is, the last dish that I'm going to have on this earth, preferably cooked by my mom. And for that Varenyk, my mom would always go super thin, like the thinnest. They'd just be so delicate, just kind of like slipping down very easily. Honestly, I can eat 40 of those in one go. I'm not joking, because they're so delicate the way that my mom does them. But for this one, I am going to go thin with my dough. I'll show you when I get there in the end. But I'm not going to go as thin as I would for sir, I don't think. And actually, interestingly enough, I went to Lviv when I was doing research for Summer Kitchens. And and Konstantin, a friend of a friend, said, so, Olia, I saw this picture online, like, where is Varenyky? I'm like, there. He's like, what? And when my mom makes sir ones, she cuts the dough into squares, and then she makes triangle shape. And he was really surprised. He said he didn't really understand. He was just like, oh, that's a really interesting shape. Like, we don't have that. Ours are always half moons here. So I don't know if I also have some family from Bessarabia. So it's a desert region close to Moldova. And I think that maybe that shape comes from that region. but I can't be sure because I've also heard people from other regions of Ukraine saying, "Oh yeah, no, we also do the trikutniki, you know, those varenyky, triangular." Okay, so we just keep on. This is like really nice. Don't look at it as work, even though I can feel my muscles working a little bit. It will be easier as well if you leave it a little bit longer to rest, yeah? And also you could make the dough and keep it in the fridge overnight, and then the next day it's just going to be like a dream. It's going to be so easy to roll it out. And also, if you ever have any dough left over, or you know, you can freeze it in one block in the freezer. Sometimes it looks a little bit grayer when you defrost it, but it tastes the same. You know, it tastes good, and you just leave it in your sink to defrost, and you use it in a normal way. Okay, so there we are. If you haven't used eggs, I wonder if your dough is a little bit easier to roll out. So I just keep going. I want it to be thinner than that. I'm actually also, forgive me, I'm just going to give it a little second. I'm just going to put hot water on, because I want to cook them and show you, you know, how to serve them. One sec. Okay, hot water is on. And I'm going to show you 2 ways of crimping them today. And at home, my family, they don't actually crimp. My mom just does half circles, and that's fine. Like, there's no kind of messing around with any of the kind of shapes. But as this is a workshop, a masterclass, I thought I'll show you 2 ways of doing it. Perhaps a lot of you who are Ukrainian already have their own way, and that's also absolutely fine. But I think one of the ways that I'm going to show you is really good for also making things like Cornish pasties and empanadas. And the other one is just absolutely beautiful. Looks like a little seashell or something. Oh, I just made a little. If you accidentally made a little hole, don't stress out. Just kind of like patch it together. It'll be okay. I just like stuck my finger into it. Okay. So I'm nearly there. In an ideal world, if I had more time, if I feel like, oh, it's just becoming a little bit too hard now, I would cover it with a towel like this, and I'd go like make a cup of tea or something like that, and then I'll come back and it relaxes, the gluten relaxes a little bit, and then I'd continue. But because today we are a little bit short of time, I'm just gonna keep on kind of persevering. We're not going to finish all of the dough today, but you are more than welcome to, you know, to keep going after we finish the class. But I'm going to do this one and show you the method enough times, hopefully for you to remember. So, I mean, this is not quite there. I want it to be thinner. I am going to just leave it for a second, I think, just to kind of, I need it more delicate. I want it to be a bit more delicate. So I'm just going to leave it for a second. And why don't we make brown butter? What are we in terms of timings? How are we doing? We're doing really well. We're just at 8 o'clock. I'm actually like speeding through it. Brilliant. Okay, so let me talk to you about brown butter, which is not traditional. It's a little bit chefy, but I do love it. If you want to go for a traditional kind of taste, something that you know that your mom makes, absolutely just normal butter, just have it at hand. And when the varenyky, when you drain them, you just put them into a bowl with butter, and that's absolutely fine. So what did my grandma used to call it, krynyczka, which means, for those who don't speak Ukrainian, means a little well. Her little well was actually quite big, so she put really quite a lot of butter into a bowl. So then once she puts the varenyky in, the varenyky would be swimming in that butter. Delicious. And yeah, so I love that. And also sour cream we would use. So in Ukraine, it's called smetana, and it's really thick. When I'm in the UK, I usually try and find kind of French full fat creme fraiche, but it should be, you know, quite thick. If you wanted to go, you know, a little bit kind of healthier, You could also use a thick-set kefir. Kefir is also really good for your gut health. Is apparently better than yogurt. So if you can find the thick-set kefir or some Greek yogurt or something, I think it works too. But really, it's all about this guy. It's about the kind of smetana where, you know, a spoon kind of like stands in it if it's in a deep enough bowl. What else do I do as a serving? We also do fried onions quite a lot, and fried salo, which is lardo or what are they called? Pancetta or something like that. But more often than not, I do crispy onions. So let me just talk to you about brown butter and actually I'm going to show you how to make it, because it is really delicious. And if you wanted to, you know, change it up a little bit and just actually just use it for anything else in your life, it's just such a delicious thing. So I'll just have a little bit of water. So we need a small pan, something like this, and some butter. If you don't have anything apart from salted, that's fine. I've got unsalted, and I've got about 100 grams here. You can use as much as you want. It keeps really well in the fridge. And I'm literally just putting it into a bowl. I'm going to switch my camera so you can see what's going on here. So I've got my butter here. I also need a whisk, or, you know, something to, let me just try and go this way. Where am I? No, you can't really see. Hold on. Like this. No, sorry, it's my not so perfect setup. Usually Joe, my husband, helps me to do this and it works so well. All right, I'm so sorry. It's a little bit rubbish, but hopefully you will see what's going on there. So I'm just gonna put it on a medium heat, something like that. You can actually, just to make this process a little bit faster, just chop it up a bit into kind of like rough pieces like this. And have a bowl at the ready, and a small bowl and a whisk. I'm just gonna go get it, one sec. Okay, so bowl and whisk at the ready. And this is melting, yeah? So what is brown butter? There's milk solids in butter. And when you heat it up, the first process that happens is that water, which butter naturally contains, evaporates. So it's going to make quite a lot of noise and it's going to bubble quite a lot. You have to kind of like be near and be observant. As soon as you hear your pan quiet down, it means that most of the water has evaporated and now the milk solids are going to start becoming caramelized, essentially. And this is what you want, but you have to take it, you know, to a right kind of stage, so you don't burn it. The reason why I have a whisk is because these milk solids have a tendency to cling to the bottom or the side of the pan, and then they burn. So I'm just kind of dislodging them when I'm doing that, helping it melt. So now it's just going to make loads of noise, and the water is going to evaporate. So I'm just gonna leave it for a sec. Other uses of brown butter, you can use them, you can use it to make biscuits or cakes. You can mix it with miso paste, and that is absolutely delicious to just like spread over your bread or something. So brown butter and miso is really delicious. You can pour it over roasted pumpkin. I don't know what it is. It's just some kind of magic. Brown butter and pumpkin or sweet potato works really, really well. It's absolutely delicious. Or as I say, you can serve it with your dumplings, because especially if you're using something like sour cream or yogurt on the side, it's that combination of sweet, nutty butter and fresh, you know, sour cream. It works really, really, really well. It's just really delicious. So, but again, you absolutely don't have to do this if you're after traditional, homey kind of flavor, you can just use normal butter in a bowl, and then when you put your Varenyky in, so look, it's there. We are there. It's looking, if you move the foam a bit, you can see that it's brown. Pour it into your bowl so it doesn't keep cooking and burning. That's why we have the bowl at the ready. Et voila. And you've got your brown butter, and it smells absolutely delicious. And it has so many fantastic uses. I think I can go back to my dough now. Let me just fix this a little bit. I go down. Yep. Okay, cool. And yeah, it's looking good, and I'm sure that it's relaxed. And I'm just going to make it a little bit thinner because I want these Varenyky to be more delicate. All right, we're getting to the fun bit now. It's looking a little bit dry here. It's okay. All right, so let's go in with our glass and just stamp out the circles. If it's your first time crimping, making them a little bit bigger, like this is a good size in terms of how Varenyky should look. But if it's your first time and you've got a bigger glass or something, don't feel bad about it. It's actually going to be easier to learn the technique, okay? So like this. And then the rest of the dough, obviously don't throw it away. We can reuse it. It's going to be a little bit drier, but it can still be used later. You just need to kind of like mush it together and really give it a long time to relax, okay? So it needs, I reckon, at least 15 minutes until you can use it again. But you've got loads of other dough to go through while this one is relaxing. Just make sure that you kind of bring it together, these offcuts. So again, there's no kind of like dry bits, and just wrap it up so it doesn't become drier. All right, cool. So we need a small spoon. Let me just switch this off so it doesn't make noise. That's better. And then I'm just going to grab this. So normally, because I know what I'm doing, I would like put them on. So put all of the fillings on, and then I'm gonna do that, this thing one by one. But because I'm gonna be showing you this a little bit slower, I'm just going to cover the rest of these while I'm showing you the folding technique. All right. So first of all, we've got our filling here in the middle, yeah? And we're going to close it together to make a half moon. And we're going to try not to have much air inside. So I'm going to kind of like push the air out as I go. And this is quite useful also to just like map it out with your thumb like this. To be completely honest with you, as I say, this is already good enough. This is like a really beautiful Varenyk already. And this is what my mom wouldn't bother to do anything else. But because we're kind of like trying to learn something else, more like crimping techniques, I'm going to show you. If your Varenyk, if for some reason your dough is super dry and you're just like, it's not sticking together, just a tiny bit of water, not too much, just literally like, just dip it into a little bit of water and then and then give it a good squeeze and it should work. But this dough consistency could be quite forgiving. Mine seems to have, worked quite well, and it's all, be kind of also really quite assertive with it. Yeah. You have to like really pinch it together. Like, don't be too gentle. There we go. Okay. So this is us. Now, if you just bear with me, I'm just going to get a little, or maybe I have something here. Hold on one sec. Okay, you don't have to do this. I'm just going to map this out for you so you know where we're going with our crimping, okay? So this is going to be a bit of a visualization technique. Imagine that this is IKEA furniture. Okay, I know, bear with me. So this is the little kind of holes. Oops, I didn't mean to actually make that hole. You don't have to do this. I'm just showing it you to show you where we're gonna try and put the corner of the dough in, okay? So starting with kind of like 0.5 centimeter along the way, yeah? In the bit where the filling ends and the empty dough begins. And this little corner is what you're going to slot into your little hole, yeah? So the first hole, this little corner, I'm gonna send it over my thumb, and just that corner, I'm gonna push in, okay? And hopefully you can see, and you've got this kind of situation happening you. So you've got your little corner and it's folded that way. Then this is your next corner that you have to push in into the next hole. So again, over my thumb, and I'm just going to push it in. And then I've got another corner. I know it doesn't look like anything's happening yet, but it will. If at any point you feel like, oh, I don't have enough of a corner to work with, just pinch it up a bit. It's okay. Just so you've got something to hold on to. And then again, push it over your thumb and into your next hole. Again, you've got a little corner here over your thumb. And you see, you've got a little kind of like twisted pattern happening here. And I'm just gonna keep going with this little corner, pushing it, not directly kind of down, but a little bit sideways. Yeah, we're moving kind of like this way. And again, assertively push it in. And I'm just gonna keep going. As I say, like this is a really good size Varenyk, I think, in my opinion. But if you can make them a little bit bigger, if you've never done this before, it will be easier than this size. I'm just gonna show you again what size it is. So I reckon if you go for 10 or 15 diameter of your cutter, it will be easier to practice this. So then we're just gonna keep kind of twisting it. Don't worry, I'll show you this a couple of times. And then at the end, just kind of like push it inside like this. And you've got a gorgeous little dumpling like that, okay? I'm gonna come back to this shape. I'm gonna show you another shape quickly. So let's put her here. I'm gonna show you another shape very quickly. I'll just grab another towel for these ones, which might be, just feel like the dough in the middle is just a little bit too thick. So I'm just gonna go over it with my rolling pin. Hold on. So if you feel like, oh, this feels like not as delicate as I want it to be, you can just give it a little bit of a roll, so it's a little bit more delicate. And it's a little bit bigger as well, so it'll be easier, a little bit easier to do as well when it's a bit bigger. So this kind of size, yeah? It's kind of like going over the edges of my palm. So again, we're gonna put this filling in, and I'm gonna show you a different technique, slightly different technique. Okay, so again, my filling goes in. Maybe I've overfilled it a little bit, be careful because the filling is quite heavy and you don't want them to split in your pan. So I've taken some out, and again, I'm just gonna do exactly the same thing. You can kind of like help it a little bit with your finger, just pack it in a bit. And then I'm gonna pinch, 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 just like that. Just pinching them together. At the end, just kind of like move it around a bit to make sure that you're getting all of that air out. Pinch, pinch, pinch. So you've got your nice pinch dough. This Varenyk is a little bit bigger. And then what we're gonna do is we're just going to put your finger here. We're doing almost exactly the same thing, but we're not doing the twisting thing. We're creating a kind of a fold here like this. And again, just pinch it in. Then I'm going to take a little bit of space. And again, I'm just going to put my finger in, create this kind of a little fold, pinch it in. And then it's just going to look really quite like a shell or something. And I really love this way of folding them as well. And it's a little bit easier, I think. So you're literally just putting your finger here, creating a little fold. And again, like last time, you're just pinching it to the bit that's where the filling kind of begins bulging out. Yeah. So again, I'm just a little bit of distance from the other one, and I'm just going to pinch it down just like that. Et voila. And you've got one that looks a little bit almost like a shell or something like that. And that's really nice too. Somebody's asking if the crimping is regional. You know what? I think that I've seen most of these in quite a lot of at least central and western and northern Ukraine. The triangular ones also central or southern, definitely, so closer to, you know, in Odessa area. This kind of thing more western Ukraine from what I think, but I don't know, I think it's really quite hard to tell because so much has been lost, unfortunately, during the Soviet Union, and after Holodomor. I'm just sure that there's so much knowledge that we've lost. There's an amazing woman she's Pani Stefa on Instagram, and her name is Mariana Dushar. She's a food historian, and she's an incredible woman and a huge kind of like source of information. And I would really recommend finding her online and kind of finding her website as well. She writes a lot about, well, all sorts of things. And she's also been doing a project called something roots. Sorry, my brain is a little bit slow today. But she's been collecting notebooks and recipes from people from families all over Ukraine, and it's just an incredible project. So you should definitely look her up, Pani Stefa or Mariana Dushar. So I'm gonna go back to the twisted one, and we're gonna do that one again. Okay, so I'm just putting the filling in. And I'm going to pinch. Yes, thank you. Somebody wrote Mariana's name there. Perfect. Yeah, she's incredible. So pinching the dough like this. And we're gonna do that thing again. So you don't have to do this, yeah? I'm just doing it for you so you can see what's going on, where I'm kind of like slotting them in. So kind of like 1/2 centimeter away from each other, yeah? And then we're gonna start with this corner, and look, and the first dot is kind of like 1/2 centimeter away from this edge. And I'm gonna push it over my thumb, and just the corner, I'm going to push quite assertively into that little dot. And then the next dot is along this curve, just another 1/2 centimeter forward, and you're gonna twist again and kind of like push the corner forward into that little dot. And then we're just gonna keep going like this. I can feel, because I'm taking a little bit longer today, my dough is a little bit dry and brittle, but the other ones should be better. So I just keep on pushing it in, and then it's a nice little twist like that. Yeah, it's just getting a little bit dry because I'm taking my time. Okay, so here's my other one, and then let's do the shell again, because I really like the shell one also. So again, maybe if your dough is getting a little bit too dry, just make sure that you don't have too much flour underneath, just so it doesn't dry it out even more. And I'm just gonna go like this, just make it a little bit thinner. Another thing that helps is don't make your towel wet, but make it kind of damp. So you just kind of like put it under the tap a little bit, and then just like give it a really good squeeze. And a damp towel really keeps everything nice and moist if you're taking your time kind of practicing these. Yeah, so you can see that my dough is just becoming a little bit too dry. All right, so we're gonna do the shell one this time, and I'm just going to do exactly the same thing. You don't have to hold it in the air. I'm only, you can do it on the table if it's easier. Sorry, you definitely don't have to hold it up. I'm just doing it so you can see what I'm doing, but you can absolutely just do it like this, which might be a little bit easier. Okay, and then I'm gonna do exactly the same thing. So with this one, we're starting over here, yeah, where we're leaving this corner B, and we're just going, when I put my thumbprint here, this is where my first fold goes, yeah, between these two thumbprints. So one thumbprint, and then this is almost like your cue. So you're going to fold this in like that, and then we're gonna do exactly the same. And again, I'm just going to kind of like go a little bit more diagonal like this. and just keep putting my thumb in there. And I'm suffering because my dough is going so dry on the edges, but it should still cook all right. Okay, and at the end, maybe just fold it in. Et voila. And just make sure that that doesn't fall apart. And we're gonna put this here. Let's do another couple of, let's do another twisted and another. And then we're gonna cook them. And I'm gonna show you a nice way, kind of like, honestly, at home, it's literally just like put it in a bowl with loads of butter, you know, smack your sour cream on. But if you wanted to do a little more of an elegant kind of way of serving them, I'm gonna show you a slightly kind of like chefier version of it. So then I'm going to, and I'm going to tell you also, I'm not going to be able to show you today, I don't think, but I'm going to tell you how I do crispy onions in just a second after we do another couple of these shapes. So again, so mine is really, has just become a little bit too dry. So I'm just going to put a little bit of water here. And as I said, just like a tiny bit of water and just dab, 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 just like this. And then and then it kind of works a little bit better, but not too much. And then I'm gonna go again, corner is gonna go into the little dot. And then again, over your thumb and into the next one. If you feel like you don't have enough, you can just pinch it up. The dough is quite forgiving. And then you go over again, and then again, and again. And sometimes it's when you get to the middle bit and you're like, I don't have enough to kind of slot into the next bit. So you just stretch it up and you just keep going. Well, this one has split a little bit, unfortunately. You know what I'm gonna do? Just because I want to keep showing you the shapes, I'm just going to, my dough has gone a little bit dry. I'm just going to roll out a little bit of this fresh dough singularly, like I was showing you before, like how you do it for kids. Because it's nice and soft and pliable and not as dry as these guys here. So I'm just gonna put these to the side. They won't go to waste. I'll still use them later. Oh, and if there are any offcuts, my mom and my grandma used to call them Varenyky. So you can also just put your filled Varenyky into the water, but then you can also put your dough offcuts in like pasta, and that's also absolutely delicious, eaten with all of the toppings that you've got. So I've got like a piece of dough that's not dry, and I'm just going to roll it out like that. And I'm going to show you again the twisted one, and then I'll do another one and do the shell one. So here you go. We're going to put this in, and then I'm going to fold it in half, just like that. Oh, that's so much better. The other one was just becoming so dry. Okay, so there we go. So I've got my half moon. Don't worry if the edges, don't come perfectly together. It's fine. You're going to twist it all anyway if you're doing the crimping, so it's okay. As a general rule, try not to stress out in the kitchen and everything will be okay. All right, so again, we're gonna do this twisted one. Where am I with my camera? So you can see the best possible. So first slot, second, third, fourth, just like that. And then our corner goes into the first one. And I'm just assertively, just the corner, pushing it in. Then I've got this bit here. And again, pushing it over my thumb and into the next. And at first, it doesn't look like much. And then again, just twist over and pinch it up if you don't have much to hold on to. And then again, it goes into the next. And you just keep going. And then in the middle, usually you're like, I need to pinch it up a little bit more. So I've got my little addendum there. And then I just keep going over and over. And this dough feels really nice and pliable, just like that. Voila. And we've got our nice little twisted Varenyk. And then I'm going to do another one. And we're going to do the seashell, and then I'm going to cook them because I really want to show you how to serve them in a slightly kind of like fancy way. I'm sure that everybody knows how to serve them normally at home, so I just thought I'll show you the way that I really like. In terms of the fried onions, traditionally, literally just oil, chopped or sliced onions, and you cook them until they're nice and brown, like really nicely caramelized. The way that I do them, and again, that's a little bit of a chefy thing that I do. So let's say shallots, you cut them into circles, not too thin, not too thick, something like that. You cut them into circles or half circles. And then sometimes I put them into a mixture of vinegar, sugar, and salt, and just give them a very quick pickle. Then I drain them. You can use that vinegar to, in salads or whatever. And I dry them. I pat them dry with a little bit of kitchen towel. And then you can either use normal flour or rice flour. You put them in just before you're ready to fry. If you have a deep fryer and you'd like to use it, amazing. I kind of like hate the faff of cleaning it afterwards, so I just do a shallow fried one. I put a pan on, this much oil in the pan, in the frying pan, and then in batches I put these floured onions in, and I kind of like give them a stir and cook them until they're super nice and crispy. Absolutely delicious, and you can put them on top of your Varenyky as well. But as I say, it's a slightly of a fancy schmancy kind of thing to do, so you don't have to do that. You can just literally fry chopped onions in some oil, and it will be fantastic. So here we go. We've got the second one that I was going to show you again is the seashell one. So again, making these at the end, just make sure that you've got rid of that air. Just pinch, 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 pinch. And again, like using your thumb as a little guide is quite useful. And then this kind of border here, I'm just going to make a bit of a wave almost. And then again, and again, just like that. And I think maybe even this one I prefer to the other one. It's just so beautiful. And maybe one more just inside like that. Voila. And you've got your little thing. For the onions, did you say the same amount? Sorry, I couldn't resist the same question about the onions. For the onions, did you say same amount of sugar, vinegar, and salt? Thanks. Hopefully your pack has the recipe. If it doesn't, yes, I just put enough vinegar. Let me just change it up. I just put enough vinegar. I put my chopped onions into a bowl. In another bowl, actually, I would put 100 mils of vinegar, and I would use something like cider vinegar or white wine vinegar. And I would add a teaspoon of sugar, a teaspoon of salt, mix it up because all vinegars are different as well. Taste it a little bit. It should be just like really nicely seasoned, sweet and sour and to your palate. And then just add a little bit more sugar if you need to. Just make it taste really nice, like a really nice sweet and sour balance for you. And then you pour that vinegar over the onions, push them down so they're properly covered, and minimum 15 minutes. Even in 15 minutes, they will kind of like become nicely pickled and still fresh. Or sometimes, just leave them in the fridge, and you don't have to fry them. They're just delicious, to be honest with you, as they are. But yeah, I hope that answers the question. I'm just going to check our time. We're doing good for time. I'm just going to put my, you know what? I'm just going to give me 2 seconds because we actually do have half an hour. Maybe I can show you this whole shallot situation in real time. Hold on. You know what? Let's do a couple. I've got 3 shallots I need to show you. So shallots. So I would just kind of like cut it like this a little bit to peel the skin, but leave them whole. I'm not going to pickle them today. You don't have to pickle them. That was just kind of like an extra chefy thing to do. You can also just use them fresh, as I will do now. And they are worth it if you wanted to make a kind of a slightly more of a dinner party-ish thing. And that's definitely something that would do at Ottolenghi when I used to work there a very long time ago. We did quite a lot of these crispy shallots. And they're useful for so many things, actually, not just for Varenyky. You can also put them on top of a dal or a stew or, oh my God, I mean, fried crispy onions. What can be better than that? Okay, so I've taken off the membrane so they're not too kind of slippery. And then I'm just going to cut them and I'm going to show you. So not too thin. And as you know, take your time. Don't like rush when you're cutting them. Because you want them to be as much as possible the same thickness so they cook at the same time. Yeah, so here we are. So something like this is good. So you see, not too thin, not too thick. So I'm just gonna keep going. And you can do quite a few of them and they keep really well in an airtight kind of like container. I just keep them on top of my fridge, basically. All right, something like this, and then we go a bit faster. But it's going to look really beautiful. Another fantastic thing, and again, if you go on my Patreon, I believe that I've got a video in the free section, is a fermented grilled chili sauce. And again, that's not something that we would do traditionally in Ukraine, but my husband, who keeps on walking to and fro here, Joe likes to eat with his Varenyky. At first I was like, what, blasphemy, how can you eat a chili sauce with Varenyky? And now I'm a convert. So sometimes I would do something like that as well. Serve them with a bit of a hot sauce on the side. But again, not traditional. And if you're a purist, please don't hate me. All right, so I'm gonna just grab a bowl here. All right. And I'm gonna put them in. I'm not going to put the flour in yet. I'm going to make sure that I've got my pan and my oil on, and you can do more than that. I'm just doing a little bit just to show you kind of like a demo of how to do it, but you can really do a bigger batch than that. And I'm gonna get my frying pan, kind of a medium size, I think, something like that will do. I'm gonna put it on here, grab my oil. Okay, so if we just go this way, put it on. Oh, no, because I unplugged it. Okay. And I'm gonna show you how much oil I'm gonna put. Like, I haven't got a lot, so this is, this is it. It's gonna, wait, hold on. Something like that. So it's kind of like, they can get submerged. All right, I'm coming. And now while this is heating up, here we are, my shallots. While this is heating up, I'm going to separate them first. Again, if you put flour in too soon, it will kind of like, it can become a little bit too claggy, if that makes sense. Like it will just clump up too much. So I'm gonna wait for the oil to get hot and then I'm gonna add my flour. You don't need much. Kind of for this amount of shallots, a couple of tablespoons is enough, really. If you've got rice flour, it makes for a really good alternative, or corn flour as well works, and also is gluten-free if you need to make them gluten-free. I've just got my regular plain flour here, so I'm going to use that and show you that, regular plain flour works also. Another thing that you want to have is either a mesh, what's it called? Sorry, my brain is going a little bit. sieve to just when you're finished, you will fish them out with a slotted spoon and put them into a sieve over a bowl so they drip down. I think I don't, or otherwise you can use a little bit of kitchen paper to put them on to just absorb that extra fat. But I think I've run out of kitchen paper, so I'm just gonna do the thing with the, hold on. So I'm gonna do something like this, look. Like that, and I'm gonna use a spider, where you can just use a slotted spoon to fish them out and put them in afterwards, and they will be all good. So let's grab a bit of flour. I'll show you how to test if you're, so yeah, that's it. Just a sprinkling like that is gonna be enough. Afterwards, also, if you have some nice salt at the ready, you can sprinkle it with salt after they're done. So again, I'm just gonna go this way. Sorry if it's not a perfect setup. It's smoking a little bit too much, so I'm just going to take it off the heat, and I'm gonna let it kind of chill out for just a second. I want it hot, but I don't want it to be sort of super, burning immediately. Forgive the beeping, please. Just one sec. So I'm gonna lower the heat as well a bit so it doesn't kind of burn. And then I can see that it's super hot, so it's fine. Otherwise, you can just put one in and see if it's shimmering. If it's shimmering, you're good to go. Don't put all of the flour in. You just want the shallots. Leave the flour kind of like behind in the bowl if you've got quite a lot. Okay, so I'm just gonna give it a mix them up a little bit. Sorry. Yeah, so here I am with this. And some of them are already becoming quite nice and brown, but we need more, so I'm gonna put it back on. If you're doing it on a normal hob, like a medium high heat to begin with, but then you kind of have to be, to control the heat. And if you see that they're browning a bit too fast, just lower the heat a little bit, yeah? Okay, and just like move them around a bit. And the trick is not to let them become too brown because they will be acrid. They just need to be nice and kind of golden. My heat has gone a little bit too low, I feel. So I've just increased it a bit. All right, so I'm nearly there. Some of them are browning a little bit faster than others. That's fine. Very nearly there. They're smelling fantastic. I've got my hot water at the ready. The Varenyky themselves are going to take just a few minutes to cook. All right, I'm good. I'm gonna switch it off. This is it. You're good like that. I'm gonna fish them out and put them onto my thing to drain. Okay, here we go. Beautiful. And the pickled ones work in a very similar way. Just make sure that you kind of make them as dry as possible after pickling. There you go, beautiful shallots. Stick them there, put my pan on, and I'm gonna grab my hot water and we're gonna cook our varenyky. Okay, I'm just gonna try and make the situation a little bit nicer for you. Hold on so you can see what's going on. I'm just gonna grab my water, which I've already boiled. One sec. And we have some salt at the ready too. If I'm doing a big batch, you'd need a bigger pan than that. It's because I'm only making a couple to just show you what it looks like. I'm just gonna do a medium pan here. But yeah, big pot of water, just like you would do with pasta, and plenty of salt to make that to make the water nice and salty. I'm just gonna get the salt, one sec. This. All right, so just putting the salt in, quite a bit because I want it to be nice and salty. Give it a little bit of a stir. Gonna wash my hands quickly. Okay, so just waiting for my water to boil. Going to clear up my table. I'm gonna finish these varenyky probably with my mom tomorrow, to be honest with you. So the dough will keep in the fridge nicely. These guys probably have gone a little bit too dry now, so I'm just gonna drop them into the water to cook them as like little pieces of pasta. It's fine, it'll be still delicious. But yeah, I'm just gonna give this a little bit of a clean. Wait for the water to boil nicely. Again, I'm gonna have my spider at the ready so I can fish them out, but you can just drain them in the sink afterwards. I've got my plate for serving here. And for varenyky, I think for these ones, we will need just kind of like 3 minutes. So it's boiling nicely. I should make it too. It's boiling nicely. I'm gonna put them in now. So one piece of advice, when you put them in, so I'm gonna put them in one by one. Careful not to splash yourself. When you put them in, just give them a little bit of a stir so they don't get stuck to the bottom of the pan, okay? Just like that. And then 2 minutes and they're gonna be done. I need possibly another kind of bowl. Right, and I'm gonna show you a way to rinse your plate in case you wanted to have a little bit of a fancy presentation for your varenyky. So I've got my my cream. Wait, hold on. They're boiling there. All right, just 2 minutes. I'm just gonna go here now. So here we are. We've got our nice plate. We've got our sour cream. You can also grate a couple of pieces of garlic into it if you like it. If you want a little bit of a garlicky kick, and also maybe a pinch of salt too if you want. But I'm just gonna go like this, and I'm gonna almost like create a little bit of a bed for them. And yes, I mean quite a lot of smetana, and you can put this on the table as well as a thing. But there you go. You've got your nice kind of like little bed of creme fraiche. My varenyky are there. My delicious crispy onions are here. I'm just gonna try a little bit. Good. Maybe just, actually, you know, they're nice and sweet and everything else has got enough salt in. I'm not gonna add the salt to them, but if you wanted to, you could put a little bit of molten or like flaky salt or something and just mix it up like that. It would be nice. So varenyky, nearly there. I'm just gonna have a look. Yeah, they're looking gorgeous. I reckon they need another minute. Only because there was quite a lot of kind of like crimping going on, so I want those bits to cook through properly as well. Otherwise, if you've done your half moons, literally 2 minutes and you're good. Because the filling inside is cooked, all you want to do is just to cook that pasta dough. All right. So why is it now doing that? It's just gone really quiet. Just need another little bowl here. Okay, 30 more seconds. And I'm going to put them in here and then serve them in here. Put the brown butter on and the onions and maybe a little bit of this delicious pickle into a bowl as well on the side. Okay, that should be fine. Switch it off so it's not, oh, it's such a release, isn't it, when you switch something really noisy off. Where is my spider? Here. And where is my bowl? It's here. Okay, so I'm just gonna take them out of the water. And at home, as I say, normally I'll just have like loads of butter here. If you are vegan, a really nice chili oil or something like that would be great. Okay, so just taking them out. And let me just go here a bit like that, so it's a bit nicer for you. Right, so let's just do the pickle quickly. So it's just gonna look so nice, so gorgeous. You could chop it up to make it a little bit easier for people to eat, or they can kind of like, it just looks so pretty like this. Let's grab another thing. So just like that. Gorgeous already. And you can put a little bit of, as I said, a little bit of sesame oil or unrefined sunflower oil. Then we're gonna grab our Varenyky. And we're gonna put them on top of our delicious cream, just like that. So imagine this is a starter. Yeah, I'm not gonna put them all. You can do from 3 to 5. But at home, as I say, it would be a big bowl. I put like 10 in at first, and then I'll keep going. And then I need another spoon. And then look, our brown butter. Just give it a mix. It can actually, it's still butter, so it will seize up. So you can put it, you can heat it up in a pan or something to loosen it up. But for now, it's all good. Then put your brown butter on top like this. I mean, it's looking kind of delicious already. And then a bit of the crispy onions. And voila. And I think, and look, these kind of like little grooves are holding all the butter in. I want to eat this plate now, personally. And I really hope that you do too. We're nearly done. I'm just going to show you very quickly our pickle. So if these guys make some space for a sec. So our pickle, I'm just going to push it in. That's fine. And then a bit of this. And you can use a spoon elegantly, or you can just go like that a little bit. Whoop. One thing that can happen actually with this brine, but don't be scared. It can become a little bit viscous. That's because beetroot has quite a lot of sugar in. So don't be scared if your brine is a little bit viscous. It's not gone bad. It's bad if you've got blue or black mold and it smells disgusting and you just, whoa, and it looks dead as well. There's no bubbles, there's nothing. If there's a little bit of white, what looks like white mold, it's Calm's yeast. You can pick it off because it can kind of influence the flavor a bit, but it's safe to eat. It's fine. You don't freak out. But honestly, if something goes wrong with your pickle, you will know about it. It will just look dead and moldy and disgusting, and you'll just put it in the compost bin and start again. But yeah, I hope this all looks beautiful to you. I hope you, somebody's saying horseradish with the smetana, 100%, absolutely delicious. There's going to be some questions now, isn't it? And I hope that we've got good time. Oh, okay. I'm quite pleased that we're, I think, quite good with the, yay, somebody's actually made and they taste delicious. That makes me so, so happy. Shall we have some questions now?
Okay, Olia, we have Peter Poe asking, can the cookbooks in Ukrainian language be purchased?
Unfortunately not. Unfortunately, none of them got published in Ukraine. There were some talks with a publisher and then the war happened. So yeah, it's just as sad as it is. I wish that they were, but not.
Okay, the next one is 00 pizza flour okay for future reference?
I once did a taste test. So I did a dough with 00 flour and one with plain flour and even like strong bread flour, and it's all delicious. It's all fine. There's like slight textural differences, but it works. Another thing, very, very quickly, I will add, in whoever has Summer Kitchens, the book, there's a recipe for wholemeal spelt flour. And they're really delicious. It just that wholemeal spelt flour has so much flavor in it, but it's quite a different beast. Like you have to work really fast, etc. So it's a little bit of a tricky one. But once you feel really confident with this, you can try that as well. And it's arguably a little bit more kind of healthy if you really wanted Varenyky, but you were like not eating white dough or whatever. So just, I don't know, wanted to mention.
Excellent. Olha Samohilna is asking if the dough is sticky, should I add more flour?
Mm. It depends. You can add more flour actually when you're rolling it out. If it's so sticky that you just feel like, oh, it's just pasty and nothing's going to happen with it, then yeah, then once you kind of bring it together and you feel like, oh, this is really, really, really sticky, you know, then you can just sprinkle more flour on your worktop and just knead it in that way. So when you're kneading it, just keep on sprinkling flour and that will work, and you can add flour that way.
Excellent, thank you. Ilana Rickman is asking how much cheese should we use?
So I had 300 grams of potato and 150 gram of cheese. So 1 to 2 kind of ratio, but that's absolutely up to you and to your taste buds. If you've got this incredible cheese, use more. If your potatoes taste amazing, but your cheese is so, just add a little bit. There's no kind of like firm recipe, but what I did today was a proportion of 300 grams of potato to 150 grams of cheese.
Excellent. And my sister, Daria Ivanochko, is asking, can you double or increase the dough recipe?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you can just double it up, and it should work well. Always once you kind of do this, you know, when we did the fork situation, and then you went in with your hand, if you feel like at any point like, oh, it's just too flaky and too kind of dry, you can trickle a little bit more water in to bring it together. So you can actually kind of, you know, at that stage, control it a bit and change it and fix it.
Excellent. Irina Marchuk, would you add a bit of oil to the dough to keep it elastic?
Actually, you know what? I think my mom did start doing that. But I don't usually do it. But I definitely know that people do that. Just like to the amount that we did today, maybe half a tablespoon of oil or something. I don't know, how much do you add? But yeah, definitely you can.
Elaine Rickman again, how much of the other seasonings like the seeds are recommended and what combinations are nice?
Yeah, so for seeds, so for the amount that we did today of the ferment, I don't know, half a tablespoonful of coriander seeds, if you like, if you really love those flavors. Just you just gauge it, kind of like, I wouldn't go more than half a tablespoon for this amount of each spice. But you can also, in terms of flavorings, I think that people will really have to go with their palate. So, you know, see, like, do you like aniseed flavors? Add fennel seeds. You know, do you like coriander? Add coriander. Do you like them all together? Add them all together. But as a kind of like rule of thumb, I think half a tablespoon I would put of each spice that I love in there. So if I was to use spices, I'd like put in half a tablespoon of coriander, and maybe I don't know, half a tablespoon or a teaspoon of caraway seeds, something like that.
We have a question from Yiva Kenneman, and I believe she had to go, but we will ask the question anyway. How do you make sure sweet, fruity fillings don't have too much moisture and prevent it from turning soggy?
Yeah, that's a really good one, actually. That's a good question. You can drain. So I actually can't get sour cherries in the UK very easily at all, and I use defrosted sour cherries when I make mine. So I just make sure that I drain it as much as possible in a bowl. If it's fresh strawberries, you just kind of like just make sure that you don't cut them and put sugar on them way in advance, because that will draw the moisture out. So you just kind of like have to work fast, I guess, if you're just using fresh fruit. But with something like sour cherries, especially if you use frozen fruit, just make sure that you leave them on a, you know, the same as we did with these onions, just leave them in a what
Sieve.
have a sieve. Yeah, just leave them in a sieve so they drain all of the moisture off.
Excellent. Karina Fernandez, in the notes, there would be a third rest for the dough. Is it necessary? Isn't it necessary?
Sorry, what was the question again?
There is in the notes that we sent around, there would be a third rest for the dough. Isn't it necessary?
A third rest. Sorry, I don't quite
Like
understand.
let the dough rest a third time.
Oh, yeah, a third time, it will make it easy. You know, the whole rolling out thing, it would make it easier. So each time you give it a little bit of a knead, the gluten seizes. And in an ideal world, I would have just let it be for at least 5 minutes that third time, yes. But today I didn't because I was like rushing. I wanted to do everything. But yeah, read the notes are good.
Marta Bostic's asking, how thin is the dough? And that
Uh,
came from a couple of people, actually.
Oh, sorry, did I not? I did bring it up, but then didn't really show you. You can go, I mean, it also depends on your how you like your varenyky. If you're used to kind of like more of a sturdy pierogi situation, you can I'm just gonna roll it out quickly and show you because I realized that I haven't really shown you. But I'll show you, like, for me, for this particular filling, I would go, hold on. Let me just show you. I would go, let me just go this way with my camera quickly. I would go something like this, the thinnest bit. Sorry, I didn't do it perfectly, but if you know what I mean, like you're almost kind of like seeing through, like if you put it over your ring or whatever, you can almost see the pattern through it. But not quite, because the potato filling is quite heavy, so it needs to be. So again, like if you've ever used a pasta machine, if you imagine, you know, when you turn it, the setting that's before the thinnest is what I would use for this potato. But if I was to do the more delicate filling, like that sir, you know, the curd cheese and egg yolk, I would go like thin. So if you put the dough like over your hand, you can almost kind of like see the pattern of the ring or something like appearing. I hope that
Excellent.
makes.
Excellent, thank you. Do you have time for a couple more questions,
Yeah,
Olia? Okay.
sure, of course.
Sorry. Oksana is, no, hold on. Roma Ignatovic is asking, is it possible to over-knead Varenyk dough?
Well, the more you need it, the more kind of like it will seize up, but I don't think so. No, you just the trick is you can if you really if you're really enjoying kneading it, just go for it. Just knead it away until it becomes so stiff. Just make sure that you leave enough time for it to kind of like for the gluten to relax, so it's then easy to roll it out. But yeah, no, I don't think that I've never over kneaded dough, but also I'm quite, to be completely honest with you, I'm quite a lazy kneader. So as you've seen today, like I'm just like knead a little bit, let it rest, knead a little bit, let it rest, and then it kind of works. But if you are in there for a workout, go for it. I don't think you can over knead it.
Thank you. Oksana's asking, can you make Varenyky with buckwheat flour?
Right. So I think a mixture, you would need to still do a mixture. Buckwheat flour is, you know, because it's a seed, it's not actually a wheat. It doesn't have any gluten in it. So, but I mean, they do buckwheat noodles. I haven't tried, to be completely honest with you, I haven't tried a pure buckwheat flour. I've tried half and half. I've tried half buckwheat flour, half white flour, and that worked quite well. And the flavor was incredible. I really love working with buckwheat flour in general. What I've seen even from when I mentioned the spelt Varenyky, and that's white spelt works in exactly the same way. So you can use white spelt flour, and the process will be exactly how I showed you today. If you use wholemeal flour, wholemeal spelt flour, when you make the dough, it basically loses its stickiness very fast. So I almost like mix half of the dough, then very quickly shape them without kind of like letting it rest or anything. Just like mix, and then immediately you start shaping them. And then I'll make the other half of the dough, and I wonder if buckwheat flour would work in a similar way. But again, I'm sorry, I haven't done it like just fully buckwheat yet.
Okay, we'll do one more question. Theo Hadasimiu is asking what kind of oil for the crispy shallots.
I just used refined sunflower oil, but you can use anything you have at home. Whichever oil you fry with is absolutely fine. I mean, to be honest with you, I've done it with olive oil before as well, and it worked well. It's just more expensive to use, obviously, because you need quite a lot of it. And the oil that I use today, I'm going to strain, get rid of the bits, and I'm going to reuse it for frying because it's fine. Nothing's burnt there, so you can reuse it.
Excellent. I think we have a ton more questions, but what we will do is see if we can answer them over the internet. We can send emails if that's okay with you, Olia. We can consult with you.
Yeah.
What I'd like to do is remind people that though today's workshop was free of charge, Olia would like to share some information about the fundraising effort very near and dear to her heart, the legacy of war. And give me 1 second, I will share the screen.
Thank you.
Oops.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I've seen little messages popping up saying that. So you don't have to, by the way, you don't have to donate for my dad's project. There's also Legacy of War, kind of like the main page. I'm going to talk about my dad's thing in a sec, but for the Legacy of War in general, they do this fantastic work. They've helped me. So as soon as the war started, we were in such a horrific situation, as you can all imagine. A lot of you, I'm sure, Ukrainians were in the same situation. They were just so fast at helping. Like as soon as the money that we raised, as soon as they went in, pretty much, you know, the next day, within 2 days, the money went to their Ukrainian partners, and I know they've done so much. They've brought ambulances to Kherson region and other regions. They've helped vulnerable women and children. And Giles Dooley, who set it up, he was a war photographer originally, and he lost a couple of limbs in Afghanistan after he stepped on a mine, and he created this foundation. And I know them personally, and I really trust them. And thank you so much for donating. And but this separate thing is for my dad's project. He's building a minesweeper. He's an engineer by profession. And he used to have a factory in Kakhovka. It's been bombed since, and the town itself is still occupied. But him and his colleagues, his employees and some other people in Kherson are now, they've got this old tractor and they are turning it basically into a minesweeper. If the project is successful, once he completes it, it will get certified by the Ukrainian government, and hopefully he will get investment and will start producing them, and that will kind of like save quite a lot of lives in terms of sappers. That, you know, if people have to do it, you know, they can just get blown up. These tractors will be remote controllable, so you know, it's just a really good project. But you can also go to the main page on Legacy of War and donate to their main effort as well. So you don't have to do my dad at all. It's just as an option.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Olia. I did want to mention that during the course of the event, the demonstration, we had an anonymous person say that they would match any donation up to $500. So we will be contacting that are made during the presentation. We'll be contacting Legacy of War to find out if we hit that mark, and we will let that anonymous donor know that that's where we're going.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. This was such an amazing event, and I really enjoyed myself, and I really hope that you enjoyed yourselves too. And it was for a good cause. And if you don't have money to donate, also just know that it's amazing to just be able to spread the word about Ukrainian culture. And in a way, you learning, you know, if you come from a different culture, is also an amazing thing to do. So thank you everyone for joining. It was just such a pleasure. And thank you to the St. Volodymyr Institute and to the Ontario Museum for organizing it and for being so lovely to work with.
That's wonderful. And I will say my thank you, Olia, for your wonderful webinar, and Tamara. And thank you everybody for participating in today's session. Remember that this event has been recorded, and we will make it available for ongoing viewing on the SVIN and UMC Ontario YouTube channels. And if you know somebody who missed the session and might be interested, please share the link with them. As SVI and UMC Ontario want their programming to be accessible far and wide, we've made the events free of charge. St. Volodymyr Institute and UMC Ontario gratefully acknowledge the generous support of BCU Financial, Shevchenko Foundation, Ukrainian Canadian Veterans Fund, and the SUS Foundation of Canada, as well as Delta Bingo and Gaming. On this note, we conclude today's event, and we wish everyone a wonderful day and evening. Дякуємо, до побачення.
Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Слава. Thank you.